Today we're going to discuss on how to create a requisition. Okay, this is the first step in the recruiting. This is where the recruiting process kicks off within the success factor. Okay, so if you remember in the last class, what we did is that we enabled the recruiting from provisioning, right? So initially, when you get a instance from a customer, it will be a blank instance, so you won't be having any access to it, or you cannot see anything. So what you do in the provision, you're going to log in provisioning, and you enable the required things which is required for recruiting. That we can get it from the implementation guide. We just have to go and tick mark on the required things, and then we have to log into the instance. Then we'll be able to see the recruiting in the drop down. But once we click on recruiting, but we won't be able to see anything. It will be totally a blank instance. So for that, we have to make some necessary things. So if you remember last class, we started with the creation of applicant status. That is a talent pipeline. Okay, because if we are importing our requisition XML, so without a talent pipeline, it won't get imported. So for that reason, the first step what we do is we just make the basic settings first. That starts with the talent pipeline. Okay. So next thing what we're going to do is we will start with the pick list. Because even if the pickest values, whatever we mentioned in the XML, if it's not present in the system, so it will throw an error. It doesn't get import in the system. Okay. So we will be getting into a pick list center. There are certain standard pick list that needs to be there by default. Like that has to be there in the requisition when you are importing. So are you familiar with the pick list center?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you must be already aware that now what are we are dealing with a pick list center is an MDF pick list, not the legacy pick list. So that has been deprecated. So whatever you're seeing here is an MDF pick list. So we need to create. There are certain basic pick list that is necessary for requisition, such as requisition status, whether the requisition is open or closed. Those things needs to be updated in prior to before we import the requisition XML. Normally what we do is we will be giving naming convention as per our understanding or how the client wants it, or is based on our identification usually we will just mention it by name. So normally what we do is if it's related to recruiting pick list, either we mention as recruiting or else we just mention as RCM. That's the standard process what we use, so that that's just for a naming convention. Okay, these things and all should be present. So in order to understand these values, how do you get these values? This is a basic one. Requisition status can be only these minimum statuses, like requisition on hold or requisition open or a cancel, these kind of things. Okay. So when you're having the requirement gathering session with the workshop with your client, right? So that time they will give you the different statuses, what is required for them. Most of the clients will have only 3 to 4 values for it. One is pre-approved. This comes by default. Closed. These 3 will be there by default. Okay. Pre-approved is the one when you give it, send it for, once you create a requisition and send it for approval, right? So that stage we call it as pre-approved. Once the roadmap is completed and approvals are completed, that time we're going to call it as approved status. So normally it will be as an open state. Fourth one is a closed state. So when are we closing the requisition? We consider one candidate is hired in one requisition. So that time we're going to close it, right? So these are all the recruiting statuses. This needs to be there by default. Certain clients want
What do you mean? Sorry, What do you mean? Like, for example, by default, if it's a new instance, yes, if it's a new instance, how the system know that, or once you enable, the system automatically enables that type of, like, creates that pick list.
This pick list will not be present in the picker center. As I said, so whenever you're getting instance from a client, right, picker center will be blank, totally blank. This you need to get it, that this you need to create on your own. Okay. So what you can do is, if you have a demo instance, you can just export it and see, get the values and import it in your client system. Normally, what we do is, as a clients, we just keep some standard picklist center, picklist values and XMLs with us for our references.
Okay.
Got it? So these are just how do we say, like, self-explanatory. Like, we have to understand by ourselves that these are the required values, because whenever the requisition is sending for approval, it will be pre-approved. These are all standard things which comes within the success factor. Okay. And as I said, so these are normally the 4 values which we're going to use it by default. So sometimes clients want a different things also. Okay, you can add it like on, okay, or you can just have something for your own. I don't know, like how it, I don't know. I'm just giving random examples. If the client wants a different status apart from these two, that is also you can do it. You just have to add those values and keep it here in the pick list. Okay. So here I'm just showing you one example. This is called as requisition status. If I see it in the value, I can see it as pre-approved, on hold, cancelled, pending approval. So you can name it differently, but the functionality remains same. Okay. So this is just one. This is just one example I'm giving. So different statuses you have to create on your, like, depending when you're having the workbook configuration requirement gathering, right? So based on the client requirement, you may have to have a different fields, custom fields. Okay. For that custom fields, probably they want to select different values. So that time only they will give you the values. So you can just come and create a pick list. You are familiar with the pick list creation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So in that way, we just gonna create a required pick list values for the client. Okay. So ultimately, who gonna decide what values to be created? That will be client requirement. And as I said, there are certain things, as a consultant, we have to be aware of things like in status, whether requisition status, open, close, on hold. These are all general things we should be aware of. Okay.
Okay.
So what we did, like yesterday, we enabled recruiting. We created a talent pipeline. Next, we are working on pick list center. So once we add all the pick list required values, then only we'll be able to import the XMLs. Or as consider, I have added a status as a field here in the XML. And if there is no pick list ID present in this system, and if I try to import it in the provisioning, then it will throw an error. Since that pick list value is not present in the system. So that time you need to come back again and create this, and then you need to import it. So best practice is whatever the pick list IDs and values are given by the client, we're gonna import it first. Clear? Second thing, what we do is we have to identify what are the kind languages they are using for. Okay, this will be decided by the client at the initial stage itself, probably the RSP time. So how many languages needs to be enabled within an instance and how many translations needs to be done. So since you are already worked in PMGM part, so translations and languages you must be familiar with. I'm going to tell you how to enable for recruiting. Okay. So we will go to manage recruiting languages. Okay. And then we will be enabling whatever the languages we needed. So there are two things. You can do it from the provisioning end. You can do it from the front end. Which are the languages you need it, you need to just pick mark. First, you need to enable in the provisioning, and then you need to come and do it here. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the first step what we did, right? Second step is we worked on RPP. Third step is we worked on talent pipeline. Fourth step is request. Okay. Now fifth step is so as I was saying, these are the steps we completed till now. Okay. Yesterday what we did, we enabled recruiting. We worked on RPP. We worked on talent pipeline. We will be working on pick list, and then we will be enabling the languages. Clear till now? All fine? Okay. So now we will go back. Now we're going to start on how to create the requisition. So before that, there is another thing we have to do it. It's better if we do it in the first place so that we don't have to face any errors or issues at the later part. There is something called as setup job board. Once you click on setup job board, there you need to add these values. Okay. You have to click on industry values. And then depending upon your client, you have to enable the respective industries what it is related to. In case if it's your client is related to oil and gas, you can enable oil and gas. If it's related to chemical industry, you can enable as chemical industry. So it's just for identification purpose. Okay. You just
identification purpose of the job board, like which category each for, like per se for each job board.
This is normally used at a later point for job posting, but to be honest, I don't know why exactly that RCM has set up in this way. Since probably most of the modules are not basically of SuccessFactors. It's acquired by SuccessFactors and they have incorporated within SuccessFactors. So there are certain discrepancies that we have to adjust with the SuccessFactors modules. But Employee Central is basically from SuccessFactors starting from scratch, so we don't have much of product. But when you take it as onboarding, onboarding is a module which is acquired by SuccessFactors. Before it was called as KMS onboarding. Similarly, recruiting marketing is not a basically it's from SuccessFactors. It is from a different company. They acquired it, so there will be yes, same as LMS. So there will be some things which may not seem like sensible, but we have to do it because of this sake. Okay.
Okay. Quick question. Then we can mark the check for these options after creating the first job requisition and after posting some.
Yes. Yes, there is no harm in doing it later part. I'm just saying what are the basic things we have to do so that we don't have to come back again and do it at later stage. Okay, so we just set up a basic how do you say like, structure within the system, and then we move on to a higher part. We do the initial things, cover it first, and then we go back to the next step. In that way, that's all. It's just a tick mark. That's it. And it doesn't make any much difference whether if you're selecting or unselecting it. So it's just an option, as I said. Okay. So this is related to industries. Next one is related to country. Okay. So industry and country. Here, whichever the countries your companies is working, you can select it. If you click on all, then you get all the countries. If you want to select a custom countries, then you can select it. This you'll be having an idea, or your client will be telling on what are the countries they are dealing with: America, UK, India, Russia, Japan, China. So wherever this company is involved or the clients partners are involved, they can just select this. Or if they want to post jobs related to these countries, they can select these required countries. Okay. There is no limit or something that you can all select a number of countries, and also you can select as all countries as well.
Okay.
Okay. So what we did now, we did set up job code, and we added related industries. And then select the countries. The job. Okay. Clear till now. These are the sequence we are going through. So the next part is creation of requisition. Okay. So as you know, there are two ways in creation of requisition. Okay, one is through managed templates, and another one is through XML. So since you're already aware of, we can create a number of requisitions, right? And you should be aware of it that you can only add requisitions. You cannot delete it. Once you're added, then that's done. You cannot delete from this list. Only option you have
Sorry, can
is
you
you
repeat
can
that
either
part?
make.
Can,
Yes.
can you repeat that part?
You
Sorry.
must be already aware that in job. Yes, yes, Shankar. So you must be already aware that you can create a number of job requisitions. There is no limit of creation of job requisitions templates. Okay, but only thing is once you're added, that's it. You cannot delete it from the list. Okay, if I want to delete this one, it's not possible. consider I have created this requisition, something called as Neha homework template, India job requisition. Since I've already added it, now I want to delete it. So there is no option for me to do it. So you can make it active or inactive. That's it. You have to be mindful when you're adding the requisition. Okay. It's not that you cannot delete it. You have to raise an SAP ticket, and then it's a long process. So you have to be just careful in the beginning itself, so that you don't add unnecessary requisitions in your system.
In this case, works exactly the same as performance, and I mean related to the active and inactive thing. But quick question: can we add a new template from here, like same as performance? Okay.
No, you cannot import it. You can write it from the scratch. Here the front end looks different. Right? You cannot import the template, but you need to type it and do it.
Okay.
Importing is only in the provisioning end. Okay. So since this is a kind instance, and as I said, it will be a blank instance. Once you click on manage templates, and if you come here, job requisitions, you don't see any templates. It will be totally blank. Okay. You have to create a requisition from the scratch. Okay. So there are two ways of creating which you're already aware of. One is through manage templates, and another one is through XML. Okay. This remains common for everything. Consider I want to create a template from the scratch. Okay. What I have to do is, you can take any requisition, sample requisitions, what you have it. You just copy paste it, the first part. The second part where exactly it starts is requisition name. What is that requisition you need to call it as? What I can say that they have created a requisitions only for the people who were hired from in Canada. Okay, so I will just name it as Canada job requisition. So be mindful of this name of the job requisition. In case if you are modifying this job requisitions, and if you make any by mistake also, if you put a dot here next to that name and save it and then import it, it will be considered as a different requisition. Since the name is different, it will just add it as a new requisition itself when you are importing from the backend. Okay. So first time when you're creating, that's okay, but when you're trying to modify the job requisitions, just be mindful that you don't make any changes within the name of the job requisition. Fine. So next part, how do we do this? I just copy pasted the initial version, and then name I gave based on my requirement. Okay. And then supported languages. You remember the languages what we enabled just now sometime back?
Yes, I do.
So we need to, what are the languages we tick marked there? We have to mention it here. Okay. Consider I'm doing it for UK, so I'll just do it as Ian, and then
do we have
UK.
to add all the languages that we have checked?
Yes,
on
yes.
the okay.
Yes. So which are the language translations we need it, it's better to add it here. Okay. So next part is this is the instructions. How we are going to instruction. If I see the instruction, what exactly it says.
Maybe, maybe we can check each part with, for example, if you have a job requisition open already, like requisition information, you can show me in a requisition how that shows on the system, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah. I'll just tell you, and probably I will see to try to create the question. Anyways, I'll be just explaining what exactly it is. Okay. Instruction, this is just a name, like, as it says, requisition information. You can see any instruction which says. Okay. Second one is, so whenever you're copying, right, so make sure you copy from here, field definition to the next field definition. Okay. And then paste it, and then this is the field ID. So whenever you're creating the requisition, the first line what we do the HTML tag is, first will be the ID what it represents. It will be unique, and there are different field IDs which is already for recruiting. This just standard which is already available. I think you can find it in implementation guide. See, these are all standard field IDs which is already available. This is a standard thing which comes within the recruiting ID status. Now we are defining the status, requisition status field. So this is a standard field ID. You can just copy this, then paste it. By default, it is a biggest type. Okay. So field ID, if it's a standard, we are going to give it as a standard. You can see it in the list. If your field ID is present within this list, you can add it here. And then type, if it's a standard one, you don't have to give anything, because if it's a standard field ID, then type also will be automatically related to the term. Okay. If I go to manage templates and if I give the status, if I give the field ID as a status and if I make it as a text, it won't take it. It will throw an error in the system. It says the standard status is standard ID and the type has to be biggest. It will throw an error. Okay. And then this is required is like mandatory, whether it's mandatory field or not, true or false. Okay. Whether it's a custom or not, it is a false. Now I'm giving custom as false because this is a standard one. This field I can identify it in the list. You got this part?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. So next part is labeling. How do I want to call this status? I'm calling this as a requisition status. Sometimes customer may want a different name for this field, so give it a different name. Okay. And then comes the language part. In English US, I want to call it as requisition status. Okay. For instance, I want in UK in a different way. So I'll just copy this, paste it. In UK English, I want to be called this as requisition status. So in different languages, I can name it in different way. This translation will be given by your client. Okay, you need to ask for this translation. They will provide it in the workbook. You can come here and copy paste the part. Got it?
Yes, it's similar as PM.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. If it's a request value, then at the bottom of it, we need to add it the request value. The reason we were asking, right? So why we need to add the request value before we are creating a requisition? The reason is that if we have to mention the what is the request ID here. For that reason, we are going to add it. So this is how we start with the creation of requisition. Second one, requisition ID. Requisition ID is a number what it generates when you create a requisition. Okay, you can see certain numbers, right, which is related to particular requisition that gets automatically created. You cannot have a control on that. So these are all standard fields which comes within the recruiting. See, standard field ID. This has to be text type. So field definition I have added here. The ID one field what I wanted to create is ID, and the type is text. When the standard value comes with text only, you cannot make it as a request because it's a standard thing which is related to success factors. We cannot modify it. Okay. This one you can modify. That's required as true or false. Custom will be always false because it's a standard. Even if I make it as true and try to import it, we throw an error because it's a standard field ID. Next, naming convention. This one I can give it anything. I can give it as rec ID. Okay. So if I need it in a different language, I'll just copy and paste it and make it in a different language. And this translation will be given by your client. You just come and paste it here. Okay. So these are similarly we go. This is how we do it. Okay, these are just standard fields. If I see it, ID, status, country, title, external title, listing word, job, position number, fields, field value, cost of item.
Can you please go back? I mean, go up for the job role and job code. Is always for job role, like will be object job
this
role.
Will be, see, job role and job code is a standard one. Okay.
But job code, I think, is text. The type of field is text.
Yeah, here. So job for job role, object would be type would be job role only. Okay. For job code, it has to be text. So if
for
I
position,
want to, that is different. So we will come to that part. Position. Okay. So now you got to know how to add the fields, right? How to add the fields within the XML templates.
I have a question. For example, if you search for X title, I don't know if here happens the same, but if you search, for example, for X title and that type, but in the XML, and you search that field in the user interface, the name is a little.
Sorry, Maria, your voice is breaking. Can you come again?
I'm sorry. So, for example, the X title field.
Yes.
If you search that option in the XML, is named different as I can see in the user interface. Why that happened?
Okay. Now I want this field, external title. This is a standard field. Okay. I'll be adding this field, external title. External title is nothing but a job title which will be visible for the external employees. Okay. So since this is a standard ID. I'll just copy paste this as an external title. Type would be text, as you know that it will be a text. Okay. It is required. It is true. It's based on your requirement. If you want to be false, you can make it as false. Custom, it has to be false always because it's a standard field. Okay. Now coming to your question, why it is coming as a different? You change it here as a different. I just make it as a position title. Got it?
So the name is perhaps for the CVATA is different as the language, or maybe I'm not explaining myself correctly. Let me. Okay, you can continue, and I can take a couple of screenshots and show you what I'm trying to say for next class.
Sure. We do one thing. Now, at least you got the concept, right? Like, for me, what you have to understand is the concept first. Okay. Each part we can come back to later and we can check on that. So basically, what I want you to understand is how we create from the scratch and how do we add the fields. That are you able to understand it? Did you get the process conceptual wise? I want you to understand in a process way. So how we create a requisition from the basic, we just copy paste the basic requirement, version, these things and all. Then we give the template name. Then we add it, the languages we are supporting. And then one by one, we are going to add the fields, what it is required for us. This conceptual wise, you are aware of things, right? Now, second thing is, how do we define a field? Field definition is that there are two things. One is custom fields, another one is standard fields. Whatever the fields you see it here, these are all standard fields which comes by default with the requisitions. This we cannot modify it. We just have to take it as it is. Okay. And the second thing is naming. We have to give the field ID would be same, but we can call it in a different name. That feasibility we have it here. It's just a naming convention. We can change it however we want based on our requirement, and also we can modify based on the particular country wise also. Till this your conceptual wise is clear. This is how we start building. This is how we create an XML from the scratch. Okay. So let me show you an example for how do we add in custom field. Okay, can you just guide me if you know it?
Yes, you can copy the file definition and
let me copy this.
You can put any, like, I think if it's a field like text or something like that, you can put any name in the ID, but you have to make sure that in the future, the custom future is set to true instead of false.
Right. So for identification purpose, what we can do is normally what we do is we can just put it as a
you start the name with use underscore.
Yes, first underscore. We're gonna give one ID for identification. For example, I need it for employment type. Okay, I'm just giving an example. So this is the ID what I want. I just add it here, first underscore ID, and then it can be anything. Since you're creating a custom field, you can do it anything. If you want, you can make it as a text. We can make it as a pick list. Can
I have a
make
question.
it as whatever. Yeah.
One type of field is like M field, I think is the name, M filter. If you go back, what is the difference between like like a normal custom field and that type of field? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there are two things. M filter, you can see it here. M field. Okay. Filter.
Yes.
M means multi. M represents for multi.
Okay.
And there are two things here. One is feed and another one is filter. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So M is multi, and you can select multiple things when you are selecting it. For instance, I'm just giving you an example. I'll just consider this as a pick list. So just consider that I am creating a custom field where I need to select the values for this. Okay. So for an end user, I need to give an option to select multiple things.
So in that case, I had to change the ID, like for multi, like M filter something, if I want to use that, right?
You want to change it as a type.
Okay.
Here you have the pick list. You have to make it as a pick list. So normally this thing comes as a pick list only. As I said, so here consider this an example. So employment type, there will be permanent employee, temporary employee, contractual employees, and regular employees, interns, casuals, something will be there. A number of things. So when a recruiter is saving a requisition, he wants to add multiple values. So in normal scenario, how it will be the pick list value selection? You can select only one at a time, right? Any particular field, if I go and need to select any drop down, so I will get an option to select only one drop down in pick list value, right? You cannot select multiple pick list values.
Right.
Even if you go to any requisitions and if you click on a drop down, you'll see only you'll be able to select only one at a time and save it. You cannot select multiple things, right? So, but when we add it as a M field, you can select multiple values. Got it?
But my question is, for example, like I say, a standard field ID. So I should create the ID as a M field, something else like M field. No.
No. First, you need to make it as a normal only, and then in provisioning, you have an option for M field. You have to copy this ID and paste it there.
Okay.
You have provision access. You can go to provisioning.
Okay, let me go to provisioning. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can. Can you scroll down under recruiting part? Scroll. Yeah, there.
Wait, it's okay.
It went up. I think you have to scroll up. Up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reportable.
Can you click on intern? No, you can click on internal external search settings. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Here we will be adding that as a scroll down, up and down. Here you can see it as a filter. How do we add it here? M feed, you can see it here, right? So you can just come and add it as a field.
Okay. I read, I'm not correct, that I have to do this before.
No, these things are all just come at a later point. So don't get confused. Just go with the basics first. Later on, you can check on the higher end level. Okay. This will
Sorry,
just confuse
you
you
can
more.
say again?
Yeah. So what I was trying to tell you is start with the basics and then go to this part at the later stage. Okay, or else it will be confusing for you.
Okay. Like,
Let me show you something. Okay. So just go through the definition. Okay. Don't go into the depth of the value of it. So just try to understand what is M feed. It will be a pick list. Okay. You're going to make it as a pick list. What is that you can do it? Can store multiple values in a single field. So what it's like if you're selecting a value for a field, you can select a number of values for it. For example, I want a field as a country and I want to select multiple countries within that field. I want to select as India, I want to select as Australia, and I want to select as Malaysia. I want all these three values to be selected, not just one. If I go to a field, a country value, we get I'll be able to select only one country, right? Which country I'm born. I can select only one country, but I want that field to be multiple values to be selected. So that time I'm going to choose it as a M field.
mhm.
Let me see if there is one. Yeah, M field one. Okay, it will be picked. It is a multi-site equals true, and what I'm using for? I'm using for job location country. I want this job location to be selected for multiple countries. So for
But
that,
can you see the ID? The ID is MPhil one, so it's not mandatory. I mean, I don't need to call MPhil one. I can call wherever
no, no,
I want.
no. It has to be M field one only because it's identified as M field in this basis only. You have to call it as M field one, and then naming you can give it anything, but it is identified as M feed one only because you have only 15. You can select only M feed 15 values within a system. SuccessFactor has limited the M feed values to the 15 numbers, so you cannot create more than 15.
Yes, yes.
How do we identify it? We were gonna name it as 1, 2, 3, 4, M feed 1, M feed 2, M feed 3, up
Yes.
to 15.
Uh-huh. Okay. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Maybe I misunderstood because I think I asked you that last time, and you
Huh?
said I can put like I understood that I can put whatever,
Okay.
and I have to go to provisioning and just set up. Okay, but now I'm going.
Yes. Okay. So you just have to go to provisioning and then add it over there. Um, so where were we? So as I said, so these are the standard values, standard IDs which are present within the success factors. You can use it for the respective things. And if you're using the standard ID, then type needs to be cited the same what is defined in the documentation. You cannot cite a different one. Okay. You're clear to this now, right?
Right.
Okay. So Just show you how to create in the front end also. This is a template name, and I can add the fields. As I said, fields can be added in many ways. Okay, standard field, filter field, multi-site field, job code, operator, operator's team, custom field. Okay. If I select the standard field, these are the standard fields which is already given by the success factors. Okay, if you feel like you can do it from the front end easily, then you can do it from the front end only. You don't have to do the XML part. ID, ID will be text. Requisition writing. Whether it's mandatory or not, I can select it here. Similarly, I can select the different fields. Status, and this needs to be request by default. In case if I select as a text and if I try to save it, it will throw an error. Okay. Similarly, we have these are the different types of field types what we have. Bool is something that you have on and off knob. You aware of this Boolean type? What it is?
Yes, true, false.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's just it will be just like a tab. You have to click on this auto turn on or off. Okay. Second is competencies. You'll be knowing about the competencies, right? PMG. It's the same competencies we use in RCM also. Currency field, if you are citing currency, then it will be in numbers. Okay. Then if I'm citing a date field, it will be a date field. Then derived is something which is related. Okay.
Derived is something what? Sorry.
Derived is something which is related.
Okay.
Related as in yeah. Derived. Normally, this comes in the region, country, state. These are all derived, right? Probably if it's coming from see country for cited, it has to be derived by default. Okay. Okay, and then we have enum. Enum is like this will be a pick list, but inside the requisition you can create a pick list. For that we call it as enum. This normally we use it for currency, or depends upon. If I want only 3 to 4 values within an XML, then you can create this. Okay. Then instruction is as the name defines. If you want to provide an instruction saying ABC job applications or else can give any instructions. Okay. And then a job code that we spoke already, right? Job code and job role. Multi-attachment. Multi-attachment is something you get for user. You're gonna give option to select multiple values. Upload. You got it? What is multi-attachment? If I select it as an attachment, I can I can add I can select only one attachment. Just make it as a multi attachment. I can click on the plus mark and I keep on adding a number of attachments required. Number is just numbers. Object we're gonna use it when we are defining the object fields which is coming from position. Okay, this will be discussed when we talk about the position management. Okay, don't get confused on that part. So we will discuss at later part. Object we're going to use it for object fields. Next is operator. Operator is with we spoke, right? Sourcer, operators, sourcer, recruiter, hiring manager. If you're defining that field, we're going to select this operator. Operator team, if you're defining a team for operator team, we're going to define it. Percentage, as its name says, request, you know it. Question is, we have an option to create a questions within a requisition. Okay, that you must have seen it in the front end, right? So if you're defining that, we're going to use for questions for that field. This text is like it will give you a huge text area where you can type a lot of content. Okay, text is just a normal text where you can type it, and text area is also like it's also a huge text area where you get a text to text. Okay, these are the standard fields what you can add it, and then filter field. Okay, you can select 1, 2, 3. You have as told, right? So there will be limited number of fields. You can select up to 50, and then multi-select. Similarly, with filter, you have multi-select field. I can select multiple field values, and then job code. It's a standard one. Operator we just spoke, right? Originator, recruiter, hiring manager, those things. Standard operating team feed. If I want a team for the recruiting team, I need to select this to add it. This is a custom one. This we spoke, right? So how do we add a custom field? We just mention it as cust underscore based on our requirement. Type it can be anything based on our requirement, and then we add it. Okay. So once we add the fields, there is a button permission. Okay. Button permission is only for opening and closing the requisitions. Which role I want to give? Whether I want to give it for approver, hiring manager, based on our requirement, I need to select, and then I need to select which is the permission I want to give as a button, whether it's open or close. So consider I'm a recruiter. If I have the permission to close the job requisition, then only I can go and close the job requisition or reopen a closed job requisition. It's like in a company, you don't want for all the recruiters to give the permission to go and close it, right? Close the job requisition. For example, for sourcers, you don't need to give the option to close the job requisition. However, they want to do some hiring part within the requisition, right? They'll be hiring the candidates, they'll be adding a candidates, they'll be moving the candidates to a different status. But we don't want to give authorization to close the job requisition. So that is called as button permission. This is what it is. So we have just started how to create a job requisition. So check on the website on how to create a job requisition from the scratch. Okay.